do up on you.
That's what I don't want to do.
I love Best Buy though. I can spend all day.
300-pound guys
That's
chasing
a
bears.
bad. That's like a candy store.
It's horrible.
Every time I go to Greeley, it's like, no, just drive past.
Right.
Just drive past.
Right. They can't way back up in the trees.
Oh, I wonder if they
I forgot
have
about saying that.
this.
Start shooting guns.
We want to go $2,000 on the house.
And Eagles also.
All right, it's 6 o'clock. We'll stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, just a reminder to silence your cell phones, and we'll start with roll call.
Mayor Sherman,
Yes, here.
Councilor Gural,
Here.
Councilor Klinkhammer,
Here.
Councilor Lundstrom,
Here.
Councilor Spradlin,
Here.
Councilor Tyree.
Here.
Next we have approval of the agenda. Does anybody have any additions or corrections for the agenda tonight? If not, I will look for a motion to approve the agenda.
I make a motion to approve the regular meeting for August 14th of 2023.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Councilor Spradlin,
Yes.
Councilor Klinkhammer,
Yes.
Councilor Tyree,
Yes.
Councilor Gural,
Yes.
Councilor Lundstrom,
Yes.
Mayor Sherman.
Yes. We've all had a chance to read over the minutes for our last meeting. Does anybody have any corrections or revisions for the minutes of our last meeting? If not, I would look for a motion to approve.
I move that we approve the minutes of the regular meeting of July 24th, 2023.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Councilor Tyree,
Yes.
Councilor Lundstrom,
Yes.
Councilor Gural,
Yes.
Councilor Klinkhammer,
Yes.
Councilor Spradlin,
Yes.
Mayor Sherman.
Yes. That motion passes. Next we have visitors and delegations. I think we have Brush Rodeo Association, David Sherman at first. So I don't see anybody here for Kids of Their Best. Okay. Mr. Sherman, I'm gonna go first.
Good evening.
Good evening.
As president of Brush Rodeo Association, I'm here to present you your banner and a copy of 68-year that you can hang on the wall. And also, I have a thank you from the association. And we want to thank you very much for your participation. And you helped us a bunch, and I hope we made Brush shine this last year. And I would like to thank you again and hope you'll help us out again next year.
Awesome. Thank you for everything you did to bring the rodeo. It was great.
Very a lot of good comments, man.
Yeah, yep.
that was a good
It
one.
went over really well.
Appreciate that. Appreciate your sign on the, we'll put on the Facebook too.
Yeah, thank you.
Just put it over here.
Sure, that will work.
All right.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you very
Sherman.
much.
Thank you.
All right, next we have Morgan County Family Resource Center, Housing Resource Center.
All right, I'll start things off real quick. So to kind of set the stage, we've got a group of 4 here. I don't think all 4 of them are going to talk. Maybe they will. But just to speak about some efforts that are undergoing right now in the county to address the housing need that's been around for a very long time. And then we'll transition it, as it says on the agenda, to Proposition 1, 2, 3. So a presentation that they put together, Chandra Jacobs, who's the Executive Director of United Way of Morgan County, will kick things off.
Just press the
Yep.
arrows now.
Yeah, face it that way.
I think I know how to use these things. So Honorable Mayor and Councilman, thank you for allowing us to come and present on some exciting updates that we have for housing in our community. So I am Chandra Jacobs. I'm the Director of United Way of Morgan County.
Oh, there you go.
Right there.
So you'll just do a little intro. We'll talk about what this looks like in our community and some definitions, and then we'll hit off the Prop 1, 2, 3 and give it back to Tyler. There we go. Okay, so United Way of Morgan County Collective Impact. So for those of you who aren't familiar with United Way of Morgan County, we've been here for 65 years this year, and our mission is to, we're really focused on building the blocks of good quality of life, which looks like health, education, and financial stability. And so the way that we show up in the community is really as a convener and a backbone to organizations and groups that are leading change and looking to make systematic changes. And so Collective Impact is a model that we adopted in 2020. And it does just that. So it's a collaborative model that unites diverse stakeholders, brings everybody to the same table to, again, identify gaps, and then also identify some solutions that we can work on together, and then apply for large group funding to really back those actions. Okay, so how did we get here? Like I said, in 2020, we launched our Collective Impact Initiative. And that started with our community needs assessment. And so we got over 500 responses, and as you could probably guess already, that these were the top 4 areas of need in our community: housing, food, childcare, and healthcare. We started creating action teams within each of those areas. So now we have the Morgan County Housing Action Team that launched last year in August, it's been a year. And some recent wins for that Housing Action Team is that the Morgan County Family Center had launched their Housing Resource Center, which they're here today to talk a little bit about that. And then also we had applied for the Technical Assistance Award with the City of Fort Morgan. And since that award was given to the Morgan County Housing Action Team, that technical assistance can actually be used by the whole county, and so including also brush. I'm going to pass this on to Sue to talk a little bit about what this looks like.
Okay.
Okay.
Honorable Mayor and council members, thank you again for welcoming us this evening. And I already jumped too far. There we go. First, I'm Sue Boyette. I'm the Assistant Director of the Morgan County Family Center. And before I jump in, I want to offer that we are very proud to be a part of the Brush community. In 2019, we bought a historical building in downtown. And since we've moved into Brush, we've endeavored to offer all of our programs in Brush just as we do in Fort Morgan. So we do our family advocacy, our parent education, and we are really looking forward to bringing our Housing Resource Center operations to Brush as well to support Brush families. So we start with this slide. I always really like to talk about affordable housing because when we talk about that, there's such a stigma around affordable housing, and it makes a lot of people nervous. So as we work on this issue, the way that we define affordable housing is that a family pays no more than 30% of their gross income for rent or mortgage and utilities. And so that 30% formula works for teachers in our community, nurses at Banner Hospital, folks who work at the Buffalo factory, what it's called? The Buffalo plant, about that. Folks who are just getting out of high school and starting their lives in Brush. So we recognize that at every level of housing, that here in the county we have shortages. We have shortage of low-income housing, we have shortages of workforce housing, we have shortages of first homes for our families. So we want to focus on providing safe and stable housing for folks in Morgan County at all and each of those price points and all those levels. So we did some market studies over the last few years, and I won't go into those details, but we did find a few things that are really, really important. So we know that since 2010, Morgan County has added 1,200 jobs, but only 500 housing units.
So we know we have a housing crunch. We've all been talking about it for the last 5 years. We also know that in our county, a very high percentage of workers commute into the county every day to work. So we know that we're missing opportunities to allow these workers and these families to make Morgan County their home. So we do have a roadmap of strategies. I'll just go over these quickly. The first one is to sponsor and actively pursue rental development and also the building of homes. Our collaborative group, we're not home builders and we're not building apartment buildings, but we're committed to a vision of this development in our county. So we come to city council meetings and we write letters and we write grants and we look forward to working with our local cities on the effort to bring this housing into our community. We're committed to increasing homeownership and to help renters, and that's what we're doing with the Housing Resource Center. We have started doing home buyer education classes. We do home buyer counseling. We want to make sure when those houses are built that the folks who live in Brush and live in Fort Morgan and live in Wiggins, that they're in the pipeline to buy these homes. We also address the language needs in our community. We offer our classes in multi-languages. And one of the big wins that we're really excited to share with folks is we recently brought in a down payment assistance program. It's called the Colorado Down Payment Assistance Program, which provides $25,000 in down payment assistance at 0 to 1% interest for folks in our community, depending on their income. We're focusing on housing stability. We're offering tenant training programs. We're creating relationships with our local renters as well as our local landlords. We're creating networks to make sure that folks are connected in the most effective way to keep Morgan County families housed safely. One of the things that we're working on right now is a grant for the House Bill 1304. This group has been working on that grant together. I thank Stephanie, who'll be visiting with you, for putting that together. We're really optimistic about this. And this is going to be funding for all of Morgan County to bring programs such as rapid rehousing that will allow us to put folks who are not stable in their housing into homes for up to 18 months while we wrap services around them and help them to get safe and stable in the community. We're also looking at bridge housing, enabling folks who may be homeless to live in rental units or in apartments in hotels until we can get them into those rapid rehousing programs. We're really optimistic that we're going to do some big things with this grant if we get it. Then again, the Housing Action Team just continues to look for every opportunity to increase housing in Morgan County. One of the big things we're looking at is Proposition 123, which is an amazing opportunity, which Steph will be visiting with you now. Thank you.
Hi, it's great to be here this evening. I was born and raised in Morgan County. I was in fact born at Ebenezer Hospital, which has been gone a long time, so we won't talk about when that was. But it's good to be back in Brush, and I spent a lot of summers at the fairgrounds with my 4-H club and my animals. So it's great to be working with this team. And before I talk about Prop 123, I'll just tell you a little bit about the action team. It includes not only the United Way, who's the convener or the backbone agency, but also the Morgan County Family Center, SHARE, which is a domestic violence agency in Morgan County, the Brush Housing Authority, Tyler from the City of Brush, some city council members and city manager from Fort Morgan, Northeast Colorado Housing, Centennial Mental Health, Rising Up, and the International Association for Refugees. And there are others, but that's kind of the core group that's been meeting to move this work along. Okay, double click on the right. There we go. So, in addition to the grant from the state that we applied for and we are waiting to hear, want to talk a little bit about Proposition 123. So this was a proposition that was voted on and passed by Colorado voters in November of 2022. And what it does is create a permanent state affordable housing fund with 1/10% of sales tax revenue from the state. The expected revenue from Prop 123 in the first fiscal year, which is basically July 1st to December 31st, 2023. So this 6 months, it's going to be $145 million of revenue to Colorado communities. And that's expected to double in the next fiscal year. The way to unlock the funds from Prop 123 in communities is for local governmental entities, municipalities or counties to opt in by submitting a baseline number that basically says, this is how many affordable housing units we have in the community right now, and we're committed to increasing that number by 3% a year for 3 years. So 9% over 3 years. That unlocks the ability for the community to apply for funds. Local governments can apply for funds, so the cities and the municipalities in the county could apply if they each opt in. So could nonprofits, land trusts, private entities, anyone who's working towards filling the gaps along the housing continuum. The funding is going to be available for land banking, equity for multi-unit developments, new housing financing, home buying assistance. There's more down payment assistance available, and also for homelessness response. So for people who are unhoused, you're on the verge of being unhoused. So we're working with Brush Housing Authority, and we learned that they have a waiting list of 15 to 20 families at any given time waiting for low-income housing. And so Prop 123 could actually help to solve some of those issues. An example for Brush is if we look at an average median income in the county of $70,000 at 100% AMI, so households earning $70,000, that would put them in a home, if there were homes available, ranging in value from about $325,000 to $375,000. So the push is to get people into homes, because when we know home ownership is one of the best ways for families to get stable financially and to generate wealth for their family. At 60% of that average median income, that's about $42,000, $43,000, that would place someone paying rent at about $1,000 a month. So that just gives you an idea of the range of opportunities that Prop 123 would provide to communities, from extremely low to low-income earners to earners who are at 100% to 120% actually of the average median income. So the state baseline, one of the baseline formulas that the state has provided is that Brush has about 708 units right now that will qualify as affordable housing, and a 3% increase per year would be 22 units a year, or 66 new units at the end of 3 years. I know Brush already has a lot of new housing in the pipeline, and so we have a question in to the state to see how much of that would count towards that target. There's a lot of questions about, well, what happens if you don't meet the target? So if Brush opted in and applied for some funds and some projects got going here, and by the end of 2026 you hadn't met that target of 66 new units, you simply just sit out for a year, and no one in the community applies for projects in Brush for a year. So you would sit out 2027, and then you would start over to reapply again. The local Prop 123 commitment deadline is November 1st. There's lots of technical assistance available to get communities going on this money. The purpose is for it to be used. With the technical assistance award that the United Way will be brokering, Brush will be available to use that technical assistance as well. We'd also love for you to receive updates from the Morgan County Housing Action Team, and so shortly you'll be receiving an email to ask if you want to opt into the monthly newsletter, which will just give updates, let you know what's happening around the county, and let you know when the group is coming together again. So I'm going to wrap it up, turn it back over to Tyler, and thank you so much again for having us here tonight.
Thank you very much.
Actually, I wonder, Stephanie, or anyone else, if council has any questions. If some of you might be able to answer some of those better than me. So are there any questions for the group tonight? Okay. So a general ask then, so there's two elements. Stephanie spoke about the opt-in in November 1st. It's not a formal opt-in, there's no resolution that council has to pass or anything like that. Monty or I, someone with any designated authority could opt in overall to do that, and there's a lot of potential, a lot of opportunities for that as well. So I wanted to get a general consensus from the council if this is something that you would be comfortable with us pursuing overall. We talked about it with our stakeholders this past month as well. We've talked about this whole Proposition 1, 2, 3 multiple times on a staff level and the different avenues and opportunities that it could bring, leveraging different components. An example is the land banking as well, so you can request funds to acquire land that would be set apart for affordable housing. The deadline for that is actually Friday, this upcoming Friday, to put in a submission for that. The last time I checked, I think there was between 30 and 40 communities around the state that have opted in so far. And of course, we have another couple months for additional communities to opt in. The more that opt in, I guess the more the pie is getting split, or however you want to phrase that. So the opportunity for brush though. So two questions. One, is council in favor of us opting in and pursuing what opportunities there are?
So I do have one question. With the proposition, we don't build housing. So
Correct.
if we say we're going to commit to this, how do we guarantee, like what will our role be in guaranteeing that 3% every year happens, short of like ordinances to force developers to do a certain amount of housing at this
Sure.
level?
It's a fair question, and a good question. So in my estimation, there's probably a lot of different answers for that. When I mentioned earlier about leveraging different components of it, right now we're kind of trying to get housing however we can for the most part. And so specifically being affordable housing, if we're able to access some of the funds, it ultimately reduces the cost and attracts developers to that, because it's a less cost, upfront cost, more affordable cost, however you want to put that, that it potentially opens up doors for.
So can we use that funding on our end to do things that we have in our power, like tap fees, that kind of stuff? Or is this
Infrastructure costs.
Infrastructure
we
costs?
can, absolutely.
Okay.
So this would be enticing to potential developers?
Correct.
Does any of the housing that we've already got kind of planned out fall into these parameters?
Yeah, that was one of the things that Stephanie had mentioned as well. So the number of units that have been already designated for brush.
22.
So the 708 existing units, so you have to go back here, the 66 new units. So one of the questions is the 45 units that are going up right now, would that count toward that? If so, that's 2/3 of the way there already. I don't know if it will or not. So if that be the case, Northeast Colorado Housing, for instance, they have a new build underway on Carlsbad. They have additional projects that they want to get done in brush as well. All those will qualify too, as I understand it, based on their limits. But again, if you opt in, get funding, and you're not able to carry things out, at this point, there's really no consequences for that at all. It's almost like you tried. Good job trying.
Good job, try again in
And
a
it's still
year.
tax dollars, though.
It is. So you'll be responsible for it, absolutely.
There you go. But so
Yeah,
what's
I'm joking around.
what is the home value? Is the home value range that qualifies that 325 to 375, or
That's based on, the 100% AMI.
so a $325,000 house qualifies for affordable housing?
Correct.
Right, understanding.
Correct.
Yeah, it seems like with everything we've got in the works, it shouldn't be too hard to meet that 66 in 3 years. Like, absolutely.
I like
should
it.
be something we go for.
I like it as well. I appreciate the information because it's things that I didn't know beforehand. So I appreciate you guys coming and informing us. And I mean, there are, I get your point, and I don't feel that it was like a negligent comment. It doesn't feel like there's much of a consequence in that sense. We just still have to be responsible. But I do think that we do have developments that have already put us in the path to make this successful. And if we can entice builders, then why not?
All right. Very good. And so then the other component would be since it's got to be done by Friday, is on a staff level, us pursuing land banking, requesting funds. We have to determine how general we can be at this point versus how specific, because we talked about a handful of different properties around town. It could be opportunities for this. And so us identifying whether it's one or if we can do multiple ones and kind of just ask on a broad level. And then as they filter things out on the way, we can be more specific with our game plan. So if you're good with that, then we'll continue forward.
I think it's a good plan. I'm
Okay.
happy to hear that you're already heading in that direction.
Yeah. Very good. Thank you, Council.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right. Next we have citizen comments. Citizens are invited to speak to council on any item that does not have a public hearing scheduled. There's a 5-minute time limit per person unless otherwise noted by the mayor. Please use your time wisely as you only get one opportunity. This is the only chance that you have to address council, unless you're otherwise invited. Do we have anybody here for citizen comments? There you go.
Hello, I'm Laura, the director from the library. I sent each of you council members a letter, so I won't reiterate everything that's in the letter, but I am requesting that we put a stop sign at the intersection of Everett and Cameron. Of all 4 corners of our library property, that's the only corner that does not have a stop sign, and that's where the playground, and it's a toddler playground, so the youngest children play. We have a lot of school groups and Little Beats daycare that come over often, and we had, I think in May or June, we had another wreck at that corner. And a couple times now, when there's been a wreck, police officers will come over and say, can we see if there's any footage about what happened? And at least twice, the last 2 times, the police officer said, that person lied to me, they didn't even slow down. And my office window, I can see that intersection. I live in the neighborhood, so I walk that area a lot. There are multiple intersections before from Mill Street and from Custer that do not have stop signs. People go flying by that. I know the data may not show that a stop sign would help, but I don't think the life of a child is worth the data. Maybe that isn't the right way to say it, but I just worry about the kids that play there, and I really think it would help to have a stop sign in at least one direction. So I know you can't give any response to that tonight, but I just would please ask that we get a stop sign in at least one direction.
Okay, thank you, Laura.
Thank you. Thank you,
Laura. Yep. Anybody else? Alrighty, we'll move on to management. Our first item is temporary access easement agreement. Tyler.
All right, good evening once again. Good to see plenty of me tonight. So the temporary access easement and agreement, so this is in reference to 2 council meetings ago, I believe it is when it was, where we had Rob and Wendy Danielson, who own the properties south of County Road T and in between Highway 71 and County Road 27, I think it is, North Ray Street. Turns into North Ray Street as you go south. So they had been talking with staff over the last year about some potential developments that they want to do on 2 of the 3 parcels that they own out there. And our city code was continually pushing them to require road improvements up to city standards, and it's very, very expensive. And so they had initially come to council requesting a vacation of those 2 right-of-ways that are there in between Industrial Park Road and County Road T. And so throughout that discussion, Dan Krob had recommended that we not do that because those right-of-ways are a property right that the city has interest in. And so to vacate those, we may never get those back, and there's an advantage to us having that. And so what Mr. Krob recommended was entering into an agreement, a temporary access easement, that would essentially keep our right-of-ways but give the Danielsons access to use it as access to their properties without having to bring things up to this city standards. And so we worked on putting this agreement together that, as far as I know, we're all happy with. Okay, you guys are like, no. As a matter of fact, not at all. And so this agreement, we reviewed this past week, sent it over to them. The main highlights of it are essentially what I just said, that they are able to use our right-of-ways without bringing those up to city standards, with the current proposals of a storage facility on the middle property that could be expanded throughout that property, and then an RV development on the far eastern property as well. If anything was to, anything additional that would substantiate, or what we call this, that would cross the threshold of a substantial development, at that point the roads would be required to be brought to city standards. And number 7 in the agreement gives the definition of what substantial development thresholds would be. So more than 20 dwelling units on any one of the properties, a commercial development that is in excess of the storage facility or the campground, like I said, or any additional water or wastewater services beyond those proposed. In there as well, within 10 years, just as a means to kind of keep things accountable, because we know on a staff level over time agreements get forgotten about, things just happen over time, and so just to make sure that things are still within the guidelines here, council can request in 10 years that the property owners come back and demonstrate that no substantial development has happened since then. And furthermore, in here was also 2 other things that talked about, one, the sewer line. It had been expressed by staff that the sewer line, when it was put in, wasn't designed very well, and so proper grading on the site would actually expose the sewer line, which is supposed to be underground. So if at any point all this has to be brought up to city standards, the city is then required to address that sewer line as well to make sure it's at the grade that it needs to be. And then also, because 3 county roads are currently around these properties, if at any point, or 2 county roads and 1 CDOT, but if at any point the county determines that any future development that happens on these properties can receive access from county roads and not need to use our right-of-ways, then the city will forego those requirements as well, if that makes sense. Okay. So that's pretty much everything. So we're bringing this to council for approval, and if that be the case, we will plan on executing that with the property owners, and they can get moving with their developments.
So that, number 12, if the county roads are improved, basically that number 7, number 6 kind of goes away.
Okay, number 6. So 12 was the county road one, so in the event future developments, so where the county authorizes access outside of our right-of-ways, we won't require road improvements until such time further development necessitates the same. So it wouldn't necessarily eliminate 6.
If there's still substantial development.
Yeah, so as an example, if one of the properties were subdivided and then one of those newly created parcels, county says, yeah, they can just access off County Road T, but then south of that, a bigger one happened and they needed a separate one that went through our right-of-way, it would still be applicable at that time.
And you guys are good with it?
Do you have any comments?
All right. So, if all parties are happy with it, I would look for a motion to approve this agreement. If there's no other, well, we can discuss after the motion.
I move that we approve the temporary access easement agreement as presented by staff.
Second.
Any more discussion? All right, roll call vote.
Councilor Garrell?
Yes.
Councilor Lundstrom?
Yes.
Councilor Tiny?
Yes.
Councilor Klinkhammer?
Yes.
Councilor Spradlin?
Yes.
Mayor Sherman?
Yes, like that motion passes.
You make your day, Wendy?
What's that?
You make your day?
Yeah.
I'm glad.
Camper cookies to come.
I cannot wait.
Yes. Or your cookies. Those are awesome.
I'm looking forward to see it all
Yeah.
come to fruition. It's
That would be
exciting.
amazing. A lot of development going on north of the interstate.
All right, next we have Miranda Packard with the declaration election for Ward 2.
The Ward 2 vacancy became available June 21st. So within 60 days, we either need to appoint someone to the seat or we need to declare that it's going to election. We talked at last meeting and work session, and council decided to let the voters decide. So in order for us to wrap up this process, we need to formally declare that the vacant seat is going on the ballot for the regular election. And so I'm looking for a motion to make that happen, make it official.
I make a motion to declare the election for Ward 2 vacancy.
Second. Go.
Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Councilor Lundstrom?
Yes.
Councilor Spradlin?
Yes.
Councilor Tyree?
Yes.
Councilor Clint Cameron?
Yes.
Councilor Doral?
Yes.
Mayor Sherman?
Yes. All right, that motion passes. And you're up again with the 2023 coordinated election with Morgan County IGA.
This year, our regular election as normal is coordinated through Morgan County as our who is administering the election. And part of this formal process is an IGA that we sign with them in order for them to administer the election for us. And so I didn't see anything, and I thought it was a very good agreement, very thorough. I didn't see anything that would give us reason to pause. So I also look for a motion to approve it.
I move we approve the Morgan County IGA for the 2023 election.
Second.
Jinx. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Councilor Clint Cameron?
Yes.
Councilor Tyree?
Yes.
Councilor Spradlin?
Yes.
Councilor Doral?
Yes.
Councilor Lundstrom?
Yes.
Mayor Sherman?
Yes. That motion passes. All right, next we have Tyler Purvis with a new resolution number 2023-9.
So before you start, Tyler, full transparency, I do quite a bit of work for James and Devin.
Okay.
I'm not slated, nor have I been given any work on any of this, but I wanted to see if anybody had a problem with me staying in the conversation.
I don't have any problem with them.
Okay.
You're not under contract with them or anything?
Not on anything out there.
Yeah.
Not under contract at all, really.
Yeah.
Just send them an invoice occasionally.
There you go. I think.
Thank you for that.
Sure.
Great.
All right, very good. So we have a petition for annexation on our properties. Purchased 2 pieces of land north of the interstate. Everybody who's driven on I-76 and looked to the right as you're traveling west has seen dirt moving around up there. So that's one of the properties that they had purchased. And so they're requesting that that be brought into city limits. And so before council tonight is the petition to start the annexation process. And the petition itself, the only factor about this coming before council is that they own at least 50% of the area requesting to be annexed. It's the only property that is privately owned, that's not a right-of-way, that is being requested to be brought into the city limits. And so they are qualified to do that. And so the annexation process is pretty much all state statutes. If you look at our city code, all it really does is just point to the state statutes of all the steps to follow. And so it can be kind of daunting overall, but essentially what this means is that they're saying, we'd like to do this, and city council, if you choose tonight, will pass a resolution saying, we want to begin this process. And then what happens is that we set a hearing date tonight, no earlier than 30 days, no later than 60 days, in which we will have a public hearing at that time. And then during that time, all the findings will be gathered and brought and presented to council to ensure that they meet all of the state statutes. And then from there, city council can decide yes or no based on public hearing, your own thoughts and ideas and opinions on the matter. Is that accurate, Dan?
Yeah. The other thing that's important is there's a bunch of notices that go out in that time, and I'm gonna make Tyler do all that, so.
That's fair. I put together a Gantt chart, actually. There's a lot that goes on. So the annexation itself, but there's also the zoning and the subdivision that begins as well. So a lot of activity behind this. I guess for the record overall, the map that was included with the packet was the wrong map. And I kind of knew that it was, but I put it in there. And then after the fact, I touched base with the engineering. They sent me the correct one, so we'll update that one. But this is the real annexation map itself. In there, it talks about 3 annexations. One is the property I mentioned that's owned by Armbar Property, roughly 53 acres. But then also there's two little elements here in the right-of-ways that connect our existing city limits up through here to get that 1/6 contiguity.
Continuity?
Continuity.
Contiguity.
Yeah, contiguity.
Contiguity, really?
Contiguous.
Although 76 is here, and so because this is owned by the state, this whole area counts, and then there's more property right here that's within city limits as well. So we got plenty of contiguity with that, but this is the updated map that will go along with it. So that's pretty much all that I have. Are there any questions?
Lots of questions.
Yeah. No, they're not putting in a Texas Roadhouse.
No, I like all the speculation that's been going on Facebook. That's been interesting. Aside from that, are there any detriments to annexing?
So with annexation, it's us taking on the responsibility of servicing that area. So roads will be turned over to the city, which means that we'll be responsible for maintaining those roads, fixing those roads after the warranty period. It'll be brought into the policing district as well, so Brush Police Department will be responsible for any emergency services that are out there as well. Any other elements that come along with what the city provides.
Does that include the road that has since been torn up since property ownership has changed?
Yes. Yeah, so that would be improved to city road standards, and our expectations, and all this will be worked out in the annexation agreement, is that how Hospital Road looks south of the interstate when it was all redone, where Love's was done, is to continue that on the north side as well. So same type of design, same feel, same look, same standards.
Okay. And that's all part of the process, is
Correct.
lining up all those things.
Yep, you got it. And the owners of the property who are in the back of the room tonight have been very, very proactive about everything, which is great. In my office, we get a lot of talk and ideas, but without a lot of implementation. And so they've really jumped a gun on wanting to get things done out there, which I think is great to see. There's an element of risk that they're taking on as well, because in theory, this annexation could potentially not go through if city council says we don't want it. So they're moving ground and preparing in the county, but not to county standards, to city standards, with the expectation that the city will approve this. So it's a bit of a leap of faith, but we've been in coordination with them as well as the county on these pieces. They have an engineer who's working on all the civil, working closely with Dale, primarily with all the civil public improvements to make sure everything is up to city standards and expectations. So a lot of large files have been emailed back and forth over the last couple of months for review.
What is the hope and goal of annexation? Like, why are we hoping to do this? Why is this even in front of us tonight for 52 acres to be annexed in? Like, what is the goal there?
Sales tax dollars.
Well, I know what our goal is, but like,
Is that something that you'd like the petitioners?
if it's allowed, yeah, that would be
Absolutely,
good.
I'll turn it over to you guys. This is James and Devin, by the way, if you don't know.
Good evening. The biggest goal in our heads, our minds, we just want to bring more businesses. There's another phase to this project in the future, more housing. Basically, we want to address all the community needs that the previous group that was up here, the United, were discussing. We want to bring in more restaurants, more housing, more businesses that provide jobs. I mean, we're short of housing, short of jobs around here. We just want to bring the best things that we can to the community and help it continue to grow.
Which is admirable and which is completely fair, but I think now that I'm processing and I've had a minute to think about it, kind of tying in what Tyler has said and adding to what you've said, is if you annex in, then the city is going to be helping maintain those roads and those types of things. Is that kind of, so you have the help of the city maintaining those areas? Is that more why you want the annexation?
The annexation, truthfully, it benefits us and the city.
Yeah.
And the city gets a lot more tax dollars, obviously. It benefits us initially, cost-wise, over the long term.
Okay.
Up front, not so much. But
My next question is going to be for Tyler, and because Monty's not here, and I can hear him chanting in the back of my head, water. So, do we have the water there?
Yeah, and actually to stem from that and then go into yours as well. So if you look at the infrastructure that's currently in place in the county, it's not sufficient to support this kind of development. So that's another benefit of bringing it into the city. The city
Okay.
can support that. We're right next door, whereas county, if Morgan Quality Water District was able to, it'd be very expensive to bring the type of water that they need with the pressures that they need. There's no sewer out there as well. So septics and that kind of stuff wouldn't fly with this large of a development. And so those are the type of services that are basically necessary for this scale of development.
And so this resolution is stuff that, we're just going to approve this resolution to start these steps, to start looking into all of this and making sure that this all gets taken care of, right?
Correct, yeah, this
So
is not the approval of the annexation.
all right.
That won't happen until after the hearing is done.
Thank
No
you for
earlier than
answering.
30 days,
Yeah.
or later than 60 days. So with the water, one of the requirements of annexation is that with all property that has water rights tied to it, when those are brought into city limits, those automatically get turned over to the city. There are no water rights with the property, and so with that, the property owner is required to either bring water to the table, which is 3 acre-feet per acre, or a fee in lieu thereof. So right now, the fee that we have is roughly $7,333. So about $22,000 per acre is required to be brought to the table for the annexation.
Okay, thank you for answering my questions, both of you.
You're welcome. Do you guys want to ask what's coming out there?
There's enough speculation. We'll just let him keep speculating.
Right. It's funner that way.
I move that we approve resolution number 2023-9, a resolution regarding a petition for annexation filed by James Hastings and Devin Hayes regarding a 52.80 acre parcel known as the Armbar property and setting the matter for a public hearing.
Second.
Any more discussion? Roll call vote?
Counselor Spradlin?
Yes.
Counselor Garrell?
Yes.
Counselor Tyree?
Yes.
Counselor Lindstrom?
Yes.
Counselor Klinkhammer?
Yes.
Mayor Schulman?
Yes. Motion passes. All right. Item number, letter E. Joanne Gosling with our 2024 budget calendar.
In your packets this evening, you have a copy of the 2024 budget calendar. Dates that are important to you guys. By August 25th, we should have the property assessments for 2024's budget presented to us by the assessor. The first time that we will bring any part of the budget to you guys will be September 25th when the department heads present their line item requests. October the 9th, state statute says we have to have a budget to you by October the 15th, so our available time is October the 9th to have a budget to council. It won't be a complete budget, but it will be a budget. October 23rd is when department heads will review the capital improvement requests. Right now, we have the budget retreat set for Wednesday, November the 8th, and the secondary date for that, the alternate date, is Saturday, November the 11th. State statute says we have to have a budget adopted completely by December 15th. And so right now, our council meeting in December is December the 11th, and that is when we propose to present a budget for adoption. And with that, I would like to ask council to approve the 2024 budget calendar.
I have a question. We had talked about, and I know this is a lot of work, but maybe next year or something, moving it earlier in the year, just so that, I know a big thing was making bids on equipment and cars and stuff. If they knew earlier in the year, like a lot of, if they don't know what's going to be approved, I was told that they miss out on some things just because a lot of other communities have those things in place
Right.
earlier in the year than we do.
There's some pros and cons to it. First of all, we don't get any of our information for our property tax assessment and whether it's going up or down or anything until the 25th of August. Another piece of that is I'm always getting the audit done, and it usually does not get done until July. And so trying to get two of those up and going and running at the same time is a little bit difficult for finance. But yes, I mean, they can go out and get their bids. They can't enter into any agreement on anything really until January, because that's when the budget comes into effect. They can kind of go out and say, we'd like to buy a car. And
There was another piece of that too. I remember that conversation vaguely. Actually, there was another reason they wanted it.
So like on the road side of things, you have to get like paving crews. I think Dale was one of the ones that brought the concern up the most. Is you have to get those guys booked by summertime.
That's what it was.
yeah, and you could probably book those guys and not have your budget, especially with that fund. You could book those guys
So it's
because
just
they're
a-
not doing any physical work until next year.
So maybe that's a meeting that needs to be
Yeah.
had with.
I think we just have to make sure that there's nothing binding us to booking them, that if something fatal would happen, we could bail out of it. You know what I'm saying? But I can see where that one could be done fairly easy.
Okay.
Okay?
Very good, thank you, Joanne. So I would look for a motion to approve the budget calendar for 2024.
Move we approve the 2024 budget calendar.
Second.
Any more discussion? Roll call vote.
Just real quick, a second.
Second.
Okay,
Oh,
thank you.
I couldn't have told you.
Counselor Tiny,
Yes.
Counselor Lindstrom,
Yes.
Counselor Gorell,
Yes.
Counselor Clint-Cameron.
Yes.
Counselor Spradlin,
Yes.
Mayor Sherman.
Yes. That motion passes. All right, next we have finance.
I move we approve disbursements and payroll for July 25th, 2023 through August 14th, 2023, totaling $776,578.43.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Counselor Gorell,
Yes.
Counselor Lindstrom,
Yes.
Counselor Tyree,
Yes.
Counselor Spradlin,
Yes.
Counselor Clint-Cameron,
Yes.
Mayor Sherman.
Yes. The motion passes. All right. Staff reports. We'll start with Tyler Purvis.
I've said plenty tonight. So.
Okay. Brandon Flexner, Chief of Police.
Thank you. I don't have anything for staff reports. I just got back from training, so just getting caught up on what I missed for the past week.
I do have one question. I'm getting hounded. Why are the barricades on Lincoln and Mill?
The Lincoln Mill, that would have been, I believe, a
Isn't
down
it power
phone line
line?
from what I was told. And I haven't heard the status of when that was supposed to be repaired. I know there was a very extended delay for CenturyLink to come out and fix that, but I haven't been updated on why.
Okay. Yeah, because nobody sees anything across the road, and everybody's asking me, why is our road blocked off? And I'm like, well, I don't know.
That's that's my understanding.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
All right, Joanne Gosling, Finance Director.
I need 2 more minutes of Travis time. Real quickly, I just wanted to give you a brief update on our audit. It was all ready to basically be sent to the state, and in that final draft review, the auditors realized that we did not have a statement in there. There's a new GASB ruling when you do leases. We have a lease with the Bresch Rural Fire Protection District. So we had to have a new note and some new information put in the audit for that. So we had to put in for an extension because we had to have it there by the 31st. I did put in for that extension. The state did grant the extension. I got notice today that they've pretty well got it all put together, and we're looking at another final draft read. And then at that point that we'll get it sent in, but it has been delayed. And I just wanted council to know that.
Thank you, Joan. Miranda Packard, City Clerk.
Just a couple things. The police department swearing-in ceremony will be this Wednesday at 6. And to follow up to your question at last council meeting on signing petitions, There are no restrictions for council to sign petitions other than just the same as all other registered voters, that you can't sign 2 petitions for the same seat. And then the last thing is that we have hired to fill the court clerk, deputy city clerk position, and Chan McCall will be starting with us on August 28th, so 2 weeks from today. And that's all I have.
Okay. Thank you. Dan Krebs.
Thanks, Mayor. Real quick, I just wanted to go back to resolution 2023-9, which is the public hearing that we just set for this annexation. It's the tedious nerd in me that finds we need to actually set a date. We need to fill in a date for that. And so I'd recommend, let's see, it's got to be between 30 and 60 days, which I'm terrible at scheduling. I'd say October 9th. I'd recommend October 9th if you guys don't have any.
Sounds good to me. It's Columbus Day. Somebody want to make do we need a motion for that, or just set the
Yeah,
date?
I'd probably have a motion to amend the approval and add that date.
To include that date.
I move that we amend the approval for the motion for resolution number 2023-9 to include setting the date for October 9th.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Counselor Garrell?
Yes.
Counselor Spradlin?
Yes.
Counselor Tyree?
Yes.
Counselor Clint Cameron?
Yes.
Counselor Lundstrom?
Yes.
Mayor Sherman?
Yes. Very good.
That's all I have. Thank you.
All right. Do any counselors have anything they want to share?
So I got called into CHS for a air conditioner issue, and I happened to walk in when there was 3 or 4 angry truck drivers. Evidently, the trees, as you're coming south on Colorado at the intersection there by El Jacal, it's impossible to see traffic to the west in a semi-truck.
Yeah.
And there was 3 or 4 people in there that were talking about it, and I got thrown under the bus when I walked in the door. So I said I'd mention it, but that might be something we need to look at.
I've experienced it myself. I know what you're talking about.
Have you?
It
Yeah,
is
I guess
bad.
it's really hard to pull out there, and especially in big semis, and try to get rolling and not see cars coming. So
Yeah.
that might be something we need to look at, trimming back or cutting down. Or I know the trees are pretty, but
Yeah, if I could share a thought on that overall. So we've had, well, that one specifically, our city code says that you're supposed to have a 30-foot setback, essentially, with an angle, triangle there for visibility. So why that tree was ever put there, I have no idea. When the plans were approved back in 2009 or whenever that was. So not only that one, but there's other issues that we've had downtown with some of the trees. And through the years, we've talked about it a lot with business owners. Half of them love them, half of them hate them. It goes back and forth. Business owners change, but the trees themselves have grown a lot from what they were initially supposed to be. Last year, Greg Gardanis, was it earlier this year? I don't remember. The time goes by quick. But he trimmed down a lot of those trees for us. He kind of hacked them. He had to do that because they were getting out of control. It's like a 3-year growth plan to shape them and so on. But one of the ideas that we had on the staff level is selecting a certain number of trees downtown if we need to remove those, kind of strategically placed so it looks coordinated and systematic, not just where'd that tree go. So just something to consider that we're kicking around, and if you have any thoughts or feedback as council members, feel free to pass those on. We can come back with a recommendation if we want, or staff just does it. Your call, but that's something that comes up often is the downtown trees.
I'd say we very least need to be compliant with the code. So if that tree is an issue, that tree probably should just come down sooner rather than later. I know every time we talk about the trees downtown, it kind of just gets kicked down the road.
But here in 2 months will be a problem anyway, so. Believe me.
That's what happens every year.
Well, corn harvest is going to start pretty soon too, so it's going to be an issue again. Wheat harvest just got done.
Yeah, and we've talked about, I don't know what it looks like in those tree wells, getting them out, that would be easy or not. But if we were to take one out, replacing it with a bush or a plant or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's definitely time to definitely address them and look at the best time of year to remove them. I know, has the tree board talked about it?
That one specifically.
Add that one. So we'll add that one to the list.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a few things. I'm gonna piggyback off of Justin and talk about weeds. I know that we've had a really moist season and that has led to a lot of overgrowth. I don't know who's responsible necessarily, because I know like one of the issues that I've had personally, now mind you, I drive a low to the ground car, but coming up on Mill as I get to Colorado, so I believe that's Munns Addition, so I believe that's gonna be a county issue. You can't see.
Yeah, you cannot. That little bush blocks everything.
So it kind of piggybacks onto other things though. CDOT has not been out maintaining either, and that leads me to fire concerns. And so I don't know what we need to do, but we need to do something, have some conversations, get people out there mowing or something.
Well, the county's supposed to maintain that, but I know Dale has in the past because I just about got creamed on that intersection a year or two ago.
Is that ditch company?
It might be ditch company, and the
Or
ditch
the ditch
hasn't.
company.
I also saw a
Is it ditch?
citizen in Ward 1 mowing the ditch company's property because it was so overgrown and going into their property. So that's probably not okay either. Okay, so I'll get off the negative and I'll get on to some positive. Okay, maybe let's go back to negative a little bit. I did attend the library board meeting. They did suffer some significant damage from the hailstorm, so they are working through that. Otherwise, all good on the library front. Everyone's participating and having fun, and they've ended their summer programs and are taking a small break for their youth programs to kind of reset, and then they'll start back into their youth programs. On a positive note, County Fair just ended. I'd like to congratulate all the youth that participated in County Fair. It was a really, really fun year this year, as well as, open class for adults and youth. And many, many of our county resident kids are headed to state, so that's going to be fun. And then lastly, just a reminder that school has started, so people need to be mindful of school zones and drive accordingly. And maybe actually push the crosswalk button. Just a thought. It would be helpful. That's all I've got.
Thank you.
I have a comment that only happens in a small town. The mayor invited me to go buy a cow during the fair. Yeah, I think we bought a pretty nice one.
We did. We got a
John Sweeney actually did the bidding for us, and I said, "Was that us?" And he goes, but City of Brush has a cow somewhere.
So is that 50-50 with Fresh Foods, or is it just?
Yeah, it wasn't quite 50-50. He had to kick in a little more than we had in our budget, but he was.
Do you know how much you spent?
Yes.
What you told us we could spend there, Mom. That's all we spent. we were very adamant about it. So.
That's a good answer.
I haven't seen it.
You haven't got a bill yet?
By now I haven't, so that's why I was
Okay.
kinda-
Yeah. Hopefully, John.
Maybe we filled out that card wrong and we stiffed John the money.
I mean, to be fair, they just got done a week ago?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm talking, they usually have them to you within 2 to 3 days.
Oh, really?
That's crazy.
Because they want to get that money to the kids.
Mm-hmm. All right, so maybe we need to reach out to John and
Well,
make
I'll
sure
check
that.
to make sure that accounts payable doesn't have it. I just
Okay.
don't know.
Do you want me to tell you the amount? Or just sometime. Don't you worry about things.
Okay. Yeah, our clerk office has spent so much money this year with remodels and stuff.
Yeah. What's a cow?
Thanks for being a dread about our new cow, Joe.
Speaking of school, Tyler, have you guys had any conversation with the school district about scheduling traffic studies and?
Oh, yes.
Yes. I don't have a lot. Yes is the short answer for that. When school got out at the end of the year, it was recommended by the engineer that the traffic that was, or the road work that was being done on Highway 34, they thought would change the traffic numbers and therefore some of the ideas and opinions that they had. So their recommendation was waiting until that road work completed, and so it was completed, and so the plan was to get together this summer to discuss getting the plan started in the next month or two. And so the summer communication fell off the bandwagon, if I can just put it that way overall. I have been in communication with the engineer as of late about that. There's some health issues and different things going on that have caused some obstacles there as well. So communication is not what we want it to be. It is there. pressing for it, so.
I think we need to take into consideration the possibility of another subdivision when we make this decision regarding the traffic study.
Right.
In that general vicinity.
Are you referring to the annexation?
Yeah, I mean.
That's probably far enough out that I don't think that would be a factor at this point.
But I think that's something we need to consider. We need to consider development on that side of town when we consider whether or not that South Road needs to go back. So the traffic study is the traffic study, but I feel like that shouldn't be the end-all be-all of whether or not that decision is made. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so the study itself, as part of their responsibility is to take into consideration all of the future development and all those different factors, because they look not just at what is there now, but what is expected to be there within a certain amount of time. And so with all the traffic studies, we required one of North Point Apartments as well for them. The development that could potentially is about to start if they get things wrapped up, or that subdivision that council approved for the development there, that commercial development. They did a traffic study as well. So it's kind of the same data. School district did theirs a few years ago on Mill Street, so this new one will reflect that data as well. So all those work together and continually stack up additional traffic counts. But this one with the school district is not intended to be just a study, but really recommendations on ways to spread the traffic around more so.
So just to clarify, the study doesn't dictate whether or not what direction the city goes. So the city can still decide to enforce the ordinance, which was the approval of the plans initially with the road in there, correct?
Yeah, I would say when the day I first started back at the city, June 1st, I think it was last year, is when we had the meeting all together at the library. And then the direction that was given from both the council and the school board at that time that, okay, the past is the past. Now what we want to do, we all agree that we're going to have a traffic study that's done. We're going to have recommendations that come from that, and out of those recommendations, we're going to have action steps.
Okay.
So that's
just a recommendation.
So the recommendations from the engineers.
From the engineer, correct.
If I could just add a little bit to the South Road, Beat Digger Way, whatever it was that it used to be. The remaining existing portion has 2 city residents that utilize that road that my understanding is property of the school district, and is my understanding was supposed to be maintained by the school district, and it is not being maintained by the school district. And so those 2 residents have some road issues. So I don't know, I'm just bringing it to your attention, whoever's attention, so that maybe that can be looked at while conversations are already taking place.
All right. Maybe later you can tell me what 2 are on. Dale knows already which 2 you're referring to.
I would hope he knows, yeah.
Okay.
And they're going to kick the can down the road, right? It's always going to be something that we got to push it back. I mean, we decided in good faith they'd do it, and they haven't.
Well,
I know you're doing everything you can.
That's what's so frustrating.
It's
is
frustrating.
They requested to do the traffic study for the recommendation, and then it just doesn't happen. So I'm at the point where something needs to happen, or we make a decision.
Right. Because
we're just dragging this out for 3 more years.
By the time it's done, these guys will have everything built, the Texas Roadhouse and all their houses out there will be done. So.
And then we won't have a leg to stand on.
And I will say though, in the school district defense, some of the delay was on the city's end throughout the school year on understanding what exactly it is that we're looking for in a traffic study. Because one thing we wanted to ensure it wasn't just a study that didn't really have any specific to-dos, just more like information. And so with that, we put together a traffic matrix that on a staff level we recommended is a way that we could collectively, us in the school district, work on determining what we and they determined were more important than others, so that the data wouldn't just be numbers, but we would be in agreement on what to do with that data.
I haven't listened to one of their meetings in a while, but it doesn't appear they have any intention of doing it at all. I've just watched their meetings. Maybe I'm taking that the wrong way, but it doesn't seem like they are interested in that at all.
The last comment I saw was, we're paying for it, so we'll do it when we want to do it.
Yes, they feel they're being picked on or something.
And that was a few months ago, but that's exactly what
I've watched
almost
one
verbatim
in a
what
while,
was said.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not aware of that.
And you might have talked to him since then. Like I said, it's been a while since I watched that meeting.
I haven't spoken with the school district about the traffic study in a few months, just the engineer that they've hired to do the traffic study. But in communication and emails,
sure.
Bill Wilson's been CC'd on all those as well.
Okay.
Can I ask a different question related to student safety and traffic? specifically, and Chief might be able to weigh in on this as well. So we have the crosswalk that crosses Hospital, and then we have the four-way at Hospital and Mill. Being that they are city roads, but yet that's students in the school district, I personally would really like to see like a crossing guard or someone at these intersections for safety reasons. That is such a dangerous intersection at Mill and Hospital during the school year. Maybe it's just something that we can talk about outside of the meeting, but I would really like to see something change there, and I don't know who's responsible for that, for the safety of the students. And that goes to my comment of I wish the kids would actually push the button, because they're just looking, and then they're darting across the crosswalk instead of pushing the button, which would then light up the sign, which would then alert drivers a little better. A crossing guard there in the meantime would potentially help with that issue. But I am so afraid that a kid is going to get hit. I really am. I mean, Laura talked about it at one intersection that's minute, not even near a school. I'm super worried about it on a very busy traffic road that includes semi-trucks. So if that's something that we can talk about at some point for safety, I would really appreciate it.
I don't know if you had any comments on it, really.
I mean, I think for presenting education purposes, because I know obviously getting to the school, the quickest way would be to go from Mill across Hospital Road. I think getting education and just kind of presenting to the school district and then even parents that intersection is probably not going to be optimal. You just have a lot of traffic. You're going to have a lot of people trying to get to school, get to work, and other things going on, especially in the morning. I think a better route would be to educate the school teachers, parents, to push their kids down the road to use that crosswalk. At least it's already there, it's already prepped, and have everybody there if they could be more optimal, rather than potentially having somebody trying to do traffic control at that intersection, considering the amount of traffic that's going there. So,
and even not necessarily traffic control, just a crossing guard, someone to help the kids get across that has a high visibility sign or a safety vest. We got crossing guards at Beaver Valley for a far less busy area that they do as a safety team as part of Beaver Valley, and so maybe that's why it needs to be in conjunction with the school district in the conversation with the secondary campus. Maybe they need to implement a safety team. Kids that put on safety vests with an adult present, and get out there and are keeping their peers safe. It's not working very well at the moment. And I know that even the school district tries to educate people on that, right hand turns only, and they try to do all of that, which is not always feasible. But I definitely think with school back in session today was crazy, but it was the first day. Sure. It'll all smooth out a little bit, but just a thought I really would like to, not to detract from the South Road, that's still an important topic, but something more immediate that we can do to keep kids safe.
Sure. I'm definitely open for more communication with the school district to see if there's anything they're able to do as far as volunteer work to be able to do that. I know specifically the police department would be tasking to be able to try to avoid somebody time for that, but I'm definitely open to talking to the school and see if that's something they're willing to help implement.
Great, cool. We'll see if we can't get something scheduled. I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Where are we? Any more counselors have anything? I don't have anything that hasn't already been talked about, so do you have my words for that? So we have our next agenda item is the executive session.
Whoever makes that motion needs to do it.
Okay. So I would look for a motion to, it's on here, to go into executive session.
I move that we go into executive session pursuant to Colorado Revised Statutes Title 24, Article 6, Section 402. It's subsection 4E for determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing strategy for negotiations, and instructing negotiators. The matter to be discussed is annexation terms and conditions.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Counselor Lundstrom?
Yes.
Counselor Garrell?
Yes.
Counselor Klinkhammer?
Yes.
Counselor Tyree?
Yes.
Counselor Spradlin?
Yes.
Mayor Sherman?
Yes. All right, so we will go into executive session. Okay.
I'll note for the record, we're just coming out of executive session. The time is 7:31. I was present throughout. The scope of the discussions was within the scope of the statute, and as the attorney-client privilege attaches.
Sorry. All right, did we need to make a motion for staff to do as directed, or? No? Okay.
I would have thought you did.
Cool. All right.
Just direction is all.
Okay.
Sweet.
So then I would just look for a motion to adjourn this meeting.
So moved. No, sorry. I moved that we adjourn. I know you guys don't want that anymore.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, so we'll move into our work session.
I thought you were going to be here till 9. I'm impressed.
I know. I'm
That means,
We ain't
Chief,
outta here
that
yet.
you have like 5 minutes.
I'd be quick, to be honest.
I'm just teasing.